Many people speak about stakeholder collaboration these days. Why do you think it is of such an importance?
It is important because it is one of the most crucial pieces in a puzzle that is going to take humankind into the future. Why? Let me give you a few examples. If, for example, you want to change a country's energy system, like in Germany, towards renewable energy, or if you're a country like Laos and you want to export sustainably produced timber, and that is a huge change in a country like Laos, or if you are the Democratic Republic of Congo and you really want to manage your resources in a different way, you can only succeed when you collaborate with many different stakeholders, when you take into account powerful stakeholders, weaker stakeholders, in order to develop a process, a change process that many can own and that people can really adopt and feel that this is the future that we would like to be part of. You cannot expect that this is going to happen without, let's say, without opposition, without conflicts, without disagreements. But if you turn it around and look at the disagreements and the conflicts and the different interests as a source of innovation, as a way of making the decisions better, then you are already on a very good path. Now, what does it mean in concrete when you work like this? I've been working in multi-stakeholder collaboration and helping people to collaborate better for more than 20 years. And what I experienced is a very, very interesting phenomenon. People often work together and reinvent the wheel and don't go back to the experience that other people had on how collaboration works. They often push collaboration as an issue that everybody can do, a kind of side issue, into the background, and are not working with success factors that actually are now known. How to set up a process, when to let people participate, how to deal with power, what kind of agreements you need to make, what is the role of events in stakeholder processes and change processes, etc. There is a possibility to have a handrail to actually work according, I wouldn't say a step-by-step approach necessarily, but a guiding structure that can really, really help you to succeed in stakeholder collaboration, to make your projects, your initiatives successful.
If you had to name the most common mistakes in stakeholder collaboration, what would they be?
There are probably more than 5 mistakes. However, if you force me to name 5, then the most common mistake in the beginning is that people underestimate what it means to build a resonance for a change process. It is almost like you need to bring a new idea among people who are terribly busy, because we're all terribly busy. We have lots of things on our to-do list and we have lots of things we're interested in or we're forced to have interest in. And now whatever the initiative is about, people come and just assume that everybody has the same kind of interest, time, etc. in an issue. People don't necessarily have the same opinion about how this issue needs to be dealt with. So the most common mistake is in the beginning to underestimate what time you actually need to get into dialogue with people about the issue, what they think about it, and generate that level of interest in changing a situation. Mistake number 2 is because people think it is about stakeholder collaboration, they tend to get everybody in the same room in the beginning. And I always say, no, don't do that. Don't, because you need to prepare a system for collaboration, and participation is not there for the sake of participation. You need to look at what are the relevant stakeholders, what are the conflicts in the system, what are the powerful people, the less powerful people, etc. And you need to kind of be very strategic in supporting the weaker stakeholder groups and maybe get into the conversation with the more powerful stakeholder groups, but don't get everybody together in the beginning. Do this in phase 2. When you've prepared the system for collaboration, then a stakeholder meeting is very, very important. Mistake number 3 is you go to the press, you go to the public, you announce your collaboration, you announce your partnership, you announce the project, the initiative, and you raise a lot of expectations. And I always say, no, don't do that. Do that in phase 3 when it is about implementing and you have set up a very solid collaboration structure. But don't go to the press, don't go to the public in the beginning. Make sure that you're very, very close to results before you do a kind of public announcement of something. Mistake number 4 is that you get stakeholders together, like different interest groups, in a meeting around an issue of common concern. And now what you've been doing in the beginning, which is okay to do that, you have kind of commissioned a study and you have an external consultant and somebody has kind of diagnosed the reality, diagnosed the situation, come with facts and figures, etc. Now, the most common mistake is that you take this to the stakeholder group without asking the stakeholders what they really think about it. So if you want to do that, yes, you can, and at the same time make sure that the external assessment of a situation is balanced with the internal assessment so that the stakeholders are able to diagnose the reality and not get diagnosed by an outsider. Mistake number 5 is going to agreements too early, and particularly to very formal agreements. That sometimes there can be the pressure, that you need to sign a memorandum of understanding or kind of develop a project plan or do anything, kind of even sign a contract, etc. But my recommendation is don't do that. Wait with the agreement until you have the feeling that that kind of a group of people that actually wants to work together knows each other very well and knows each other enough to also understand the differences, the difference in interests, the difference of expectations of organizations that are behind the people, etc. And only go to kind of more formal agreements once you've consolidated the goal together, once you have diagnosed the reality together, and can say, okay, let's formalize our collaboration process and find an agreement that we also put in writing. The most common mistake, number 6, is that you think the job is done after you've developed a plan together. I'm saying this jokingly because, of course, we know that's not the case. But I've come across stakeholder collaborations where people thought, but like we've agreed on this, so why don't we just all do the job? And that's fair and that's okay. However, in complex multi-actor settings, you need to be sure, you have so many stakeholders involved, you need to be sure, number 1, that you look at early successes that people can own and people can say, because of that cumbersome stakeholder process, we've reached this, and because of our collaboration, we actually shifted something, or induced a change, etc. So look out for early successes, and at the same time, be sure that you inform people regularly on progress so that they keep engaged, that they keep in touch, that they have the feeling that somebody is taking care of me and I'm with us, so that they can identify with the change process that lies ahead of you.
People often talk about process and stakeholder collaboration. Why is the term process so important?
The term process is important because if you want to engage in stakeholder collaboration, or if you have to engage in stakeholder collaboration because there's no other chance than this to achieve your goals, then the term process tells you that you cannot jump from event to event, but you actually have to plan and implement a longer term change process. I always say stakeholder collaboration is not a project management tool. It may partly be used as that, and that's perfectly all right. Yet, if you engage in stakeholder collaboration, you are in a change process, and most often you're in societal change processes, where it is about sustainable forestry, responsible supply chain, like turning a company into more sustainable production. It is about health systems. It is about water resource management. It is about any other natural resource management. It is about climate change, adaptation, mitigation, etc. You are in global or societal or local change processes. So what is important in terms of process? I suggest to use the term process architecture because it tells you that you actually need to design a process and create a structure of that process that shouldn't be completely fixed, that should be open enough to change. So what are the elements that are important? Number one is be conscious about process. Don't push process aside and don't think the planning of each and every interview, conversation, dialogic intervention, event, planning process, etc. Make that a conscious process. Number two, be sure that you don't fix yourself too much into one way of doing things. You need to iterate. You need to say, we're going to plan a process until that kind of milestone, and then we see how it goes, and then we may make some adjustments, and we may kind of change the process or improve it, etc. So iteration is a very, very important aspect. And number three, look at success factors and look at what makes up a good, solid process. And you will always find that it is people that are mostly important. So take care. Number three, take care of people. Make sure that you build relationships. Make sure that you let people interact with each other. Make sure that you stay in a dialogue. Make sure that there is some kind of a caretaker function, which we very, very often neglect in stakeholder collaboration and change processes. Make sure people are taken care of. That's the most important aspect. And number four, make sure you have installed some kind of monitoring systems where you look at your success factors that you have defined or that you can kind of take from books or from trainings or whatever. But you look at your success factors and you look at them in a group regularly together with a number of stakeholders, and you build your own process monitoring system that may be slightly different from the other monitoring systems you have. It is just kind of in addition where you say we were regularly looking at certain success factors and see how do we do on credibility, how do we do on ownership, how do we do on competence building, how do we do on result orientation, and how do we do on leadership and high-level sponsorship, or how do we do on inclusion? So these are all kind of examples for success factors that you can look at. And that is another element that is very important in building good process architectures.